But I guess
much
it's just, I mean, Will,
yeah.
you know, you've faced across a lot, well, really everyone at this table, and particularly you two, have had to face down a lot of people who are just adamantly opposed to guns. I mean, I think it's fair to say the Attorney General is on that side of things. I mean, right now he's talking about the margins. We're talking about magazines. We're talking about how many bullets they can hold. We're talking about background checks. But I think that it's worth understanding what the other side wants here, because rationally, as we've said, these policies are not going to have efficacy. So what do they really want? At some point, they want to change the way people think about guns. That may take time. That may be a process. But the end of that process is not having people have guns.
So I think the Attorney General has now aligned himself, according to the clips you just played, with Gawker, is the Journal Register in upstate New York?
Westchester, yeah.
Who see legal gun owners as pariahs, people to be published, punished, shamed. His presence at the table suggests to me that the administration will do everything it can under the auspices of executive power. As C, in our last segment, just laid out what exactly that means. Now, that has been done twice in the past. The first President Bush and President Clinton used executive power, executive orders, to heighten gun control. Essentially, what they were able to get accomplished was to ban the import of assault weapons from foreign manufacturers. But we should take a little solace in the fact that, Buck, you might be right about what their ultimate end goal is, but they're going to run up against a couple of things, including polls, the Constitution, and a limitation of power.
There's that, and there are also Senate Democrats who they have their own constituents, and we've actually heard from some of them. Now, I can't defend, for example, John Tester, for example. Now, I can't defend Eric Holder's statement in 1995 any more than I can defend that hairdo, which is 20 years out of date. But I think actually does speak to a different wrinkle to this. I think that Eric Holder is speaking to the problem of guns in the inner city, and as an urban violence problem, we're seeing this in Chicago, but I don't think that his solution about brainwashing young people is going to address the very same population that he is so terribly concerned about.
What prison he's viewing that through when he makes that statement? Is he talking about kids in the inner city who wear guns?
Yes, and if you remember in the mid-90s, hip-hop violence, the whole gangsta thing, was very big, and I think that that's what he was speaking to. But I don't think brainwashing young people addresses that.
With most rhetoric around gun control is that it's so sweeping and so fundamentally misunderstands gun culture, which has a pejorative connotation these days. But I cannot tell you how offended I am to hear Eric Holder or anyone talking about shaming gun owners. I cannot tell you. I mean, I feel it inside. It makes my blood boil because it so fundamentally misunderstands the Second Amendment, why it's necessary, why I want a gun in my home, which is not legal in my city.
Nor does it address the problem of gun violence in the inner city.
No, that's efficacy. The efficacy thing is rampant. But the idea that he would paint me with the same brush as some criminal that he's talking about is so offensive. But that is so common because most people who talk about gun control don't distinguish.
And I want to issue a warning here. I think he's talking about perception and how people view guns. I think we should take some heed from that. What can we learn from that? And I think here's part of the problem. Essie, when you talked about, it's really annoying how people in the administration don't seem to understand why you, a non-criminal, would want a gun in your home. A lot of people don't even hear those reasons. All they hear is, why does so-and-so oppose a ban on high-capacity magazines? If they even know what a magazine is, they just think, why do they want all those guns? Or they say, why are they so against having a background check? What's wrong with that? So instead of hearing the very reasonable and important reasons why it's important to promote, to have gun ownership, they don't hear that.
No, they don't hear that. Law-abiding gun owners defend their rights,
and the Attorney
which are already on the books.
And the Attorney General of the United States, I would say it's not necessarily definitely clear, but it seems to me to be clear that he's somebody who sort of falls in line with some of the hysterics who think that guns are bad, and therefore people who want to own guns, even legally, it's shameful. It's problematic. And so we need to understand that when he's sitting down with Vice President Joe Biden, and we're supposed to have this sort of big come-together talk about what's going to work and what's most effective, in the hearts of some of these people who are pushing for gun control, they just flatly and completely reject private ownership of firearms.
Well, and I think that's Will's point, that his position, his place at that table is somewhat odious and worrisome.